Commissioners Deaver,
Here.
Derhovenessian,
Here.
Gregorian,
Yes.
Lee,
Here.
Chairperson Kavanya.
Here.
The agenda for the August 16th meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on August 10, 2012. Item 2, consent items. At A, approval of regular meeting minutes from June 21st, 2012.
Move approval.
Commissioner Gregorian?
I don't have major objections, but there is one thing there that I think needed a little more detailed reporting than what it is. And this is regarding the gate project. I think it's on page 4, or maybe even 5. On page 5. I think the reporting of gate project was much more expansive than what it is reported in here. So I would really like that to be reflected more accurately in here. Other than that, I think everything else should be okay.
Commissioners Deaver,
Yes.
Derhovenessian,
Yes.
Gregorian,
Yes.
Yes.
Chairperson Kavanya.
Yes.
Item 3, introductions and presentations. At A, introduction, Annette Vartanian, Program Supervisor, Library, Arts and Culture Department.
It is with great pleasure that I introduce Annette Vartanian to the Arts and Culture Commission. Annette comes to us as the liaison to the Commission, but also will be helping us in the Library, Arts and Culture Department with our marketing efforts to make sure that the community knows all the great things that the library does, Library, Arts and Culture Department does. Annette most recently has worked in the Community Development Department, where she had a positive impact on a variety of programs. I think you're very aware of that, as she's come before you many times before. Her accomplishments include developing guidelines for the Urban Art Program, managing the citywide branding and marketing plan, developing the Downtown Art and Entertainment Policy, and managing the Glendale Area Temporary Art Program, or as Commissioner Gregorian said, GATE program. Prior to her work with the city, she was the executive director of the Armenian Chamber of Commerce. She attended Cal State Long Beach, where she attained a bachelor's degree in English literature. We very definitely like that in the Library, Arts and Culture Department, and a master's degree in public administration. And once again,
Sorry, forgot.
it is with great pleasure that I introduce Annette to you. Annette's official first day is actually today, so she's joining us on the dais for the very first time. I would also like to mention that Miriam Mosesian will be leaving us. She is part of the Community Services and Parks Department, and I want to thank her for her many years, I think, of service to the Commission on the dais. Thank you, Miriam. And in her place, next month, you'll see Yvonne Martinez, who will take Miriam's place. She is in our administration office at the Central Library. I'd also like to thank Ripsime Marshalian for her efforts and her contributions to the Arts and Culture Commission. She is no longer with us, but she has made a tremendous impact, I think you'll all agree, on the Arts and Culture Commission in terms of programs she's involved in were the Diamond Awards, the Open Studio Tour, any other projects. She really made an impact on the city and on the Arts and Culture Commission, and I want to publicly thank her for all her contributions. So back to Annette. Congratulations, Annette. We're very happy to have you with us.
Well, I'd just like to thank Cindy for giving me this exciting opportunity to work in the library and working with the commission to further promote and expand arts in the city. And I'm really excited to work with the commission in an official capacity to continue working on some of the programs that we started. And I look forward to working with the community in general, artists, as well as just residents in the community, and get to know them a little bit better. So thank you.
Commissioner Gregorian.
Well, I'm sure my colleagues feel the same. I welcome you to the Commission. I have worked with you in the past. I have to mention that you were one of the key people who helped me get the McGurchan Art Gallery in Glendale and in that very nice building on Maryland Avenue. And I know your capacities. I'm very excited to work with you. I promise you we will grill you as much as we can, and we will expect a lot of things from you. And I know that your capacities are good enough to handle all these hard situations. So welcome, and take this new challenge. As was mentioned before, Ripsime's shoes are very hard to fill, but I'm kind of confident, quite confident actually, that you will be able to fill and maybe even expand that. So welcome, congratulations, I'm very happy, and I'm looking forward to working with you in the very near future, starting right now. Thank you.
Annette, welcome to the commission. We hope to give you a fun ride. So buckle up. I'm kidding. We look forward to working with you, and of course, again, like Commissioner Gregorian stated, we know what you're capable of doing, and you're going to be just fine here.
Same as all my colleagues have said, congratulations, and we are looking forward to see what we can do, and we are there to support you whenever you need, because you have all the backgrounds in different areas, and there are certain things that the nation has survived and has gone through, which we would be there to support you and provide you. So welcome. Of course, we'll miss Ripsime Marashan, that's definitely there, but life brings changes, and with changes, open for many people.
And I also want to express my welcome. I know that you have a heart invested in the arts here in Glendale for quite a while, and we've had opportunities to chat. So I certainly look forward to working with you more in depth on a number of these things, and also just want to express and echo the sentiments of thanking Ms. Marashian, too, for the extensive work and vision that she had and time that she put into the commission as well. And looking forward to the exciting things to evolve over the next year.
Well, I'm glad now you can have a nice seat instead of always standing on the podium. Welcome aboard.
Okay. Next item, please.
At B, presentation, Chuck White, Library, Arts and Culture Department.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Kivani and fellow commissioners and city staff. It's good to be here, and it's really going to be fun, I think, working with Annette, with the commission. We've been charged with cleaning up our act over at the Central Library to make sure you're feeling very welcome when you drop in. So I hope you'll come and visit us often. I'm going to give you some...
I'd like to interrupt
yeah.
and say cleaning up our act means cleaning out our closets and our workspaces.
Some more than others. I'm going to give you some updates, some general ones. Oh, I know what I need. I need this. First of all, we have a new logo, and we're rolling right into that, trying to use it here, there, and everywhere. I worked on changing the website today, but we think it reflects accurately kind of our expanded activities, and certainly incorporates the commission in spirit, if not in name, up there. In 2007, United States Representative Mike Honda, up north, Silicon Valley area, sponsored H.R. 121. It's a House resolution to demand that Japan formally acknowledge, apologize, and take responsibility for the comfort women. It's a situation where the Japanese military forced thousands of women into sexual slavery before and during World War II. We were very fortunate to host an exhibition of the experiences of the comfort women, not just Korean, but from a variety of places in Southeast Asia. We had photos, of the people. We had remembrances. There was artwork about them. There was artwork from the Comfort Women themselves. This was brought into us by a Korean group called the Korean American Forum of California. They sponsored this particular activity. We had a great art exhibition on the main floor there. We set that up in a few hours, and people walked through, read everything. It wasn't something that you could miss, certainly, but everybody spent time reading about the experiences. There's called the Comfort Women, testimony of 100 women, and we even hosted that very woman there. She's still with us. There was a meeting at the Central Library. Mayor Quintero and Councilman Najarian were there to present her with an official city commendation. A very moving tribute, perhaps long overdue, but we were happy to do that. We have a number of renovation projects going on. They seem to pop up a little bit at a time. Our Grandview branch is going to get some work. Our Chevy Chase branch has had a lot of work. I'll bring some pictures of that to you. But today I just wanted to show you the Casa Verdugo branch, one of our smallest branches, right next to a fire station. They're still working on the fire station. There's still a lot of work to be done, but the branch is open. And if you were to see this picture a year ago, there'd be a large desk and a number of shelves and things down this floor. Now our city workers actually cut the circulation desk into 3 pieces and moved it to the right where there's a guy there, and split it. So when you walk in, there's circulation and checkout on both sides of you. And we freed up that open space. We put in some shelving with computers. That's great. But that open space means we can do this. So this is looking the other way. That's, I guess, a mad scientist doing something on the right. But you can see we're able to use the entire facility now. There is a much smaller room. It's a community room in the back. But this makes it a real interesting public space. And our new branch librarian has some ideas for that. Another great project is our Brand Library renovation. Probably a year to finish. They are temporarily located at the Central Library, so there's thousands of CDs and a lot of books. I wanted you to see, our Facebook page is probably, I'll finish with this also. The Facebook page is the best place to see photos of what's going on in the building. There's a lot of hazardous material. It's hard to get in and out. They're going through, let's say, layers of doorways with, biosuits, and they're hosing off at the end of their shift. So it's not a clean site, but it will be when we're done with it. This is a shot from the rear of the. If you were to go around to the park side and park in back, you'd see the big, Mr. Brand's sort of tower, we like to think of it, the bigger of the two. Look up on the top, on the roof, there's a little square cut out right there, and there's a guy in a bee suit. He removed 3 bees' nests from that area. They had to open that up, and he hauled them out. I'm told he gets to keep the honey. That was quite something. It's stuff you find in a 100-year-old home. The entire inside now is covered in very heavy tape, plastic taped down. It's all sealed, so things can't get damaged. Here's a pillar that you would see when you walked in the front door. They've put a frame around that so as, again, not to damage it. So that's the kind of work they're doing. Mid-40s, there's that same pillar. And you can see, if you walked in, this would be on the right-hand side. There was usually a piano there. Well, there's one there, but we had one there also, and some books. And that fireplace and the silk damask wall coverings, well, they were able to go down 2, 3 levels, and they found more silk wall coverings underneath. So there's the ones that we've seen for years. There's another silk covering underneath. Use. And let's see if this goes. And then way down on the bottom, there's a paper wall covering. And this isn't even, when they went to the floors, they were finding levels and levels and levels and all kinds of stuff down there. So it's gone through some changes over the years. This one isn't in your packet. I've wanted you to see it. I remembered we had the shots of the stenciling on some of the ceilings. Literally, the ceilings were falling down as they were taking these pictures. There's stuff coming down. It wasn't necessarily safe to be there. They were hoping to keep the stencils because this is what the original ceilings looked like. I believe they took pictures and they're going to try and recreate them. There's a lot of history in this building. So again, if you want to see more pictures, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/Brand Library, and our staff is updating. Construction people go in and out every day, and every week I get an update with more pictures, just layer after layer after layer. GPL to go. We have a library mobile app. If you have a smartphone, an iPad, an Android phone, you can download the library mobile app and do many of the things that you could do. If you used the catalog or came into the building or whatever, you can download ebooks, you can search the catalog, you can put reserves on things, you can check, borrow. You can learn a new language. We have a language program on there that's very good. Anytime, any place, wherever you are, GPL to go. We have a program. Well, I'm asking you to cast a vote electronically every week through October 1st. If you go to readbuildplay.com, we've got a little contest with other libraries sponsored by the Lego Corporation. So if you go there and vote for Glendale Public Library, do that every week, we could get little Lego kits at all of our branches. So that's what we're hoping for. Right now, we're still in the running for that. A number of events we have coming up. Women Art Revolution, that's a documentary film. Let's see, I'll get the filmmaker here. Lynn Hirschman Leesons. It's a documentary film, interviews, art, archival footage, showing how the feminist art movement fused free speech and politics into an art that radically transformed the art and culture of our times. That's being sponsored by the Associates of Brand Library, and that's September 18 at the Central Library. Another one, I just snagged this author, The Black Isle, a local author. She's in Pasadena. She's a filmmaker also, and she's going to discuss her book, The Black Isle. It's set in Malaysia, and she said growing up, she heard ghost stories. She heard all of her relatives talking about seeing things, and she said, I will never make a movie like that. I will never be involved with anything like, ghosts. They freak her out, but she wrote a book about it. It's a fiction, her first novel. Happy to have her on Thursday, September 20th. Again, Brand Libraries events continue at the Central Library. Here we have an opera talk with the LA Opera. They're going to do Don Giovanni. Talk about that on Saturday, September 15th at 2 p.m. And finally, there's our outgoing Friends President John Steele in front of a pile of books. We have a loading dock book sale at the Central Library, September 28th and 29th. It starts at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., but if you're a Friends of the Library member, you get in an hour early to pick over those choice pre-owned books, and that's at the back of the Central Library at the loading dock. Well, finally, look at our website, look at the Brand Library Facebook, look at the library Facebook, download the app, and you can get a lot of library information. Keep yourself up to date on the events and programs that we offer.
Commissioner Deaver?
A question about some of the public spaces that you had noted in one of the early slides of the facilities. How is that space programmed? Is it programmed by the staff that works in this particular libraries, or is it more a centralized piece? I'm just thinking about arts events and opportunities
Sure.
for things.
Right now, they're programmed by the site staff. So if it's central library, all that runs through our Central Library Administration Office. At the Casa Verdugo branch or the Montrose branch or wherever, indeed, that there's staff there. You contact them and they'll walk you through the process.
It just makes me think it'd be interesting to have a discussion in the future maybe about how the commission can be involved in whether it's recommendations or putting people together, or some sort of general plan that the library might work on about how those spaces might be utilized in a strategic way for the promotion of artists and arts organizations programming within the city of Glendale as well. Just a thought off the top of my head based on some stuff you brought up.
Almost all of our staff, all of our sites have at least a large display case.
Sure.
And we're always, frankly, always looking for things to put in it.
Great.
As far as like on the main floor, that's a little heavy, that's kind of a heavy-duty project, and we have to allot a lot of staff time and effort to that, but it's fun to do it. It's really a good space to do something like that.
That would also be a very good idea for the kids, and to get some kids in there, and to introduce them to some art and how to paint and all that in that sense. But that's a very good idea.
As we have discussed before also, it would be nice if we would know what are the locations, if we would have an inventory of what are the locations, so that we could walk through, see which ones are more conducive to the projects, for different projects. So as Commissioner Deaver said, so we could make recommendations and the connections with our administrator, with the art community, so we could have more displays. That would be useful. It's a long time we are looking for such places to have our artists expose and exhibit their work. So.
You're welcome. We can give you a tour anytime. We can take you through the sites. I can try and take you through photos and send you that, but we'd be happy to walk you through any of our sites anytime you need to.
Actually, I would like to have more of the space and the lighting and the possibility of hanging paintings. Then it would be nice if we could have a little tour of the commissioners to walk through and see what is really there. So in conjunction with the support of our staff, we could make the artists be aware and program for that.
The hanging walls at the Central Library came from our department. I don't think any of our other sites have movable walls or that kind of affair. We can do that at Central to some degree. We have more wall space. Some of our branches, you'll see, they're packed full. A lot of them with things on the wall, books primarily.
No, I think we have also discussed beforehand, Annette, you were not with us, that we would like to know all the different spaces that our city government has. So accordingly, we'll see how we would need to budget the public art money. So we would see where needs which fixtures, lightings, or hanging systems, so we could utilize it for our community.
Right.
This is somewhat related to the temporary art display policy that you worked on, the draft that's in process now for the Parks Department. And the reason that we haven't brought that forward to you is because I needed an opportunity to look at it in the context of of the transition from the Community Services and Parks Department and the library to the Library Department. And the primary changes that I'm recommending are related to the transition, but I also recommended, and you will see it as soon as we go back and forth between us and Community Services and Parks, a little more specificity in terms of something one of you just said, which was more specificity about the actual spaces themselves, what kind of linear feet each space provides, what kind of lighting they provide, so that artists don't go in cold when they make an application. And also more specificity about how many exhibits are feasible within the current budgets that the Parks Department has, and that the capacity of our staff, Annette's ability, because she's going to be obviously hindered a bit by a 40-hour schedule, and I'm sure she'll work more than 40 hours, but we have to prioritize her time. So I would like to bring that back to you at the next meeting with my comments on it.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Commissioner Gregorian?
A couple of points. One of them might be a little not completely relevant here, but since the subject came up, is there a way, and I'm sure there is, that we have the names of the staff and their phone numbers to contact of the Library Arts and Culture Department? With the parks, we already had that, and if we needed something, we kind of contacted them directly, and it would make life much easier for us. But for instance, right now, I personally don't know how to reach Mr. Wilkes. I don't know how to reach Yvonne. I don't know how to reach Annette. And I don't even know where their desks are in the city. So, I understand there's a transition. I'm not complaining. But I think it will make life much easier for every one of us if we know where they physically are and what their numbers are to contact, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the first issue. But the second issue is, you mentioned all these nice silk and wall silk and all that in the Brand Library. And I, being trained as an architect and loving all these older things and preservationists, if you would like, I wonder what you are going to do with all this. Are they going to be stripped off or going to be restored or reserved? What are the plans for this? Because if we want to keep the originality of the Brand mansion, I think it's very nice to keep it in as much original as cost and other issues will allow us.
The intent of the project, you may remember, is to restore the front three rooms to, as much as we can, its original state when the Brands lived in it. We are working with an historic architect who will be assessing, as we uncover things, who will be assessing all those questions. You mentioned budget. We have a certain amount of budget in terms of historic preservation and restoration. Unfortunately, it's somewhat limited, but it is limited to those three rooms. So, depending on as far as the wall coverings, we don't know quite yet what the full state of it is, but we have very capable consultants helping us with that.
Basically, what I think I make my point quite clear. I really would love this mansion to be in its best glory days. And and also maybe if budget doesn't allow, I kind of think that there might be some state or national institutions where they might give us grants to restore and keep its originality and its original state. So I don't know if you have explored that or not, but I personally would really like to see that happen.
We have explored that. The Brand Mansion is not registered nationally, so that hinders us a bit in terms of funding availability from the federal government. It is locally registered, but like all agencies, there's limited funding. So we have pursued it. If you have other ideas, I'd certainly be more than happy to hear about other agencies that we might apply.
Well, I would really like us to explore all the possibilities, and the staff maybe look into this, and I will certainly do my part to make it work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item, oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not on this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Commission may question the speaker, but there will be no debate. Staff may refer the matter for investigation and report.
I have one card here, Paul Kemp.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for giving me a chance to bring up a few issues, and we'll take it from there and see what happens. Introducing a new plan that we had. Anzo Art Gallery on Central Avenue have opened its doors on May 18th, 2012, with a nice exhibit that included 15 artists from the Glendale area. And it went very, very nicely, I'm happy to say. In the same time, two commissioners from the Glendale Arts and Culture group, Mr. Gregorian and Ms. Deaver, were present, including the cultural, I guess, administrator. That went very good, so I wanted to bring that one up. At the same time, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome this new young lady, Annette, am I right, to her new position. In the same time, I would like to read you a little mission statement that we have. We want to bring forward the occasion to all Glendale artists, the possibility of exhibiting their artwork at the gallery when elected to participate in scheduled group shows. Meanwhile, Anzo Art Gallery is dedicated to enhance, promote, and elevate the arts and culture in our city. If you have any questions or queries, I'll answer it. I left it very short and brief so I could keep your attention. I hope I didn't take more than a minute and a half. Usually people fly away after that. So I'm ready if you have any questions.
Any comments, questions from my
Just
colleagues?
wanted to congratulate you for opening the new thing. I was very sorry that I couldn't be there. I was in China at the given time, but my colleagues have spoken highly about the event and about your gallery.
Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you soon. We have two exhibits coming up, and most certainly everyone here and the city residents are invited. On the 7th of September, we have a solo exhibition of a gentleman called Jack Vartanian, and it will last for 2 weeks. The reception will be between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. on Saturday. On Friday, I'm sorry. The 7th is a Friday. And then we do have a second exhibit, another solo exhibit, for another very exquisite and superb, brilliant artist. His name is Goodell. And we will exhibit his work on the 29th of September. The reception will be again from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. and it will last for 2 weeks. Again, I would like to extend my invitation and many thanks to you for giving me this opportunity to stand here and brief you up.
Just one suggestion. Usually artists, when they have, or galleries, when they have any kind of exhibition, they send their flyers to our administrator, and it is sent to us home. Besides discussing here, it's a good reminder. That way we'll get and
Yes,
receive
you're absolutely
for
right.
sure.
As a matter of fact, before I came to this meeting, I received a little email saying that our invitations have been printed and ready to pick up.
Very good.
So from here, I'll be going to pick them up, and you can be certain that you will receive one, and all of you ladies and gentlemen will get it. I thank you very much.
Who was the artist for the first exhibition?
It's Jack Vartanian. As a matter of fact, if you have the chance, go to, again, like the other gentleman said, on Facebook, Anzo Art Gallery, and those exhibit, and some of the artwork, it's there with all the exhibit. Of course, more work is available to see on our website, which is anzoartgallery.com. You're the more, and we'll be ready to respond to any questions or queries that you have.
Mr. Gregorian?
Well, I congratulate you for your brave step in this very hard economic times.
Was it great or grave?
No, neither. It was brave. B-R-A-V.
A little sense of humor. It's all right.
So it's I really appreciate that, and the artists that you have chosen all have been outstanding. And actually, I can see our friend, your second artist that you mentioned here in the audience, Goodell, who has been not only an outstanding artist, published and featured in many magazines and articles, and I believe he's an award-winning artist in several places. I'm not going to go into there. But he also was very helpful and instrumental when we were doing our exhibitions for the Man's Inhumanity to Man and all the others. Very, very hard-working artist. And just as a little note, a couple of weeks ago, we went to the Laguna Beach Art Festival, and we were walking in one of the streets in there, checking the galleries and all that. I enter a gallery, and I see a picture which was very familiar, and I said, this might be my friend Calouste Goodell, and they said yes. So he was actually, I recognized his work, and it wasn't for sale, thanks God. Otherwise, I could have probably bought it or something. But he is a very well-known artist in all over the states and even overseas. And his works are really displayed in many other galleries and places. So that's a very good choice. I really hope that you can publicize it enough to make a lot of people to come and see his work. And unfortunately, I may not be in town, but if I am, I will be there.
I do take your words very seriously, and I'm glad you noticed the Laguna Beach. I was there. I saw his...
You saw the same work? Or the same...
On top of that, if you like, I could send you a few pictures with him standing beside some very beautiful ladies. So I do appreciate your comments, and we do respect Calouste as being very brilliant, and hopefully we will see him in more shows and higher shows, and hopefully he will have a great name soon. I thank you again. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
So just a quick comment, and that I certainly enjoyed going to the opening and really appreciated the diversity in the artists that were there and the art forms that were there, and really commend your vision for bringing this to Glendale and your openness to draw in the community from all sectors and corners, and I think it's a terrific convening. And could you, just for the public, your address of your gallery would be great, and the Facebook page one more time.
Of course. Thank you very much, Ms. Diva. It's Facebook, Anzoh, A-N-Z-O-H, Art Gallery. That will take you to our site there. And if you would like to visit the website, it's anzohartgallery.com. So you have two venues there that we could reach us. On top of that, thank you very much for bringing the diversity point up. We are trying to, as I mentioned before, promote Glendale's artists and giving them the opportunity where their work could be shown. So that's our mission, that's our goal. It's a lot of hard work, but I was never afraid of hard work. So, any other questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Mr. Kemp, thank you so much. And again, my colleagues have already, I think, said enough, which is why I'm so thankful for them, because I never have to say anything. But again, we commend all your hard work, and you seem like a wonderful person, and they say that great things come out of great people. So, and we look forward to seeing more events.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be there.
Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll see you at the shows.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Next item, please.
Item 5, business agenda. At A, action items. 1, review and provide feedback on the upcoming Arts and Culture Commission retreat agenda and approve the date and venue of the retreat.
In the June Commission meeting, the Commissioners directed staff to prepare a business agenda for the upcoming Arts and Culture Commission retreat, and to provide Commission with copies of important documents that are related and will help guide the retreat. Staff's recommended purpose of the retreat is to develop and prioritize the strategic direction of the Arts and Culture Commission for the fiscal year 2012-13. And the following discussion items are being suggested for the agenda to help Commission achieve your objectives. So, number one, review the status of the current work plan, the 11-12 work plan, and to develop a 2012-13 strategic direction and related work plan in accordance with the revised city ordinance. Attached to your packet is a suggested agenda for the meeting. We also have enclosed some documents for your review or your re-review, including the draft agenda. You, in the June meeting, were given a copy of the newly revised ordinance and guidelines for the urban art program that we hope will be helpful. Also included and will be spoken about a little later by Annette is the 2011-12 Arts and Culture Commission work plan for your review. And I'm sorry, Annette won't be speaking on that. This is there for your review, and Annette will be speaking on the roundtable discussion items from the meeting that you had several months back. We have given you some suggested dates for the retreat. We're hoping that we can hold it at Central, or we want to hold it at the Central Library Conference Room from 9 to 1 p.m., with refreshments being served at 8:30. So the recommended or the available dates at the moment are September 22nd, October 6th, October 13th, and October 22nd. And this is pushing it a little farther out than had been suggested earlier in light of our transition and that just starting and us getting on board from the library's perspective. So with that.
Should there be a correction? October 22 is a Monday.
Yes, there should be. So
Should be October 20.
Yeah, October 20th. Yeah, then please correct the October 22nd to October 20th. Thank you for that catch.
Commissioner Deaver?
I have just a series of questions and comments that I'll try to shoot through here really quickly. One, just for my reconfirmation, we're on a fiscal year, correct? So when we're looking at our plan coming up that we're planning for, we'll already be into it? It's starting in July?
Yes.
Okay. It is what it is. I just wanted to confirm on that. And with regard to the agenda, I know this is what we talked about, and I think it's great. My question is, and maybe you want to keep it general for this purpose, but I'm hoping that prior to the actual meeting, we can have a breakdown understanding of item C, because it should be, in my mind, broken into even hourly or hour and a half increments with a break in there too, but so that we can keep it directed so that we're looking maybe at overall goals kind of generally from each of the commissioners on a broad base, and then being able to drill down as we move through the meeting so that we can come away with actual decisions by the end of the meeting. And that's just what was missing for me in here. I'm sure it's being planned for, but I would love to be able to see that prior to the meeting.
And that's a very good comment. I mean, what we were hoping for is feedback, and I'm sure we will get feedback from you in terms of the more specific agenda items that you would like included.
Great. Yeah, and I had just jotted down, just for what it's worth, in my own mind, having broken it down into visioning and goals, long and short term, so that we're looking at the year in the context of maybe a larger or a longer term goal. And then secondly, then being able to focus in key areas that we want to accomplish as specific goals for the year. And then thirdly, looking at tasks that would help us achieve those goals over the coming year, which would in a sense become our work plan for the year. So that's just my recommendation. I'm sure my colleagues and fellow commissioners have other thoughts on that. Question two, do we need a public comment proportion of this, or because it's a section as a retreat, do we not need to have that as part of it? Okay, great.
I mean, this will be Brown acted, and a public notice will be issued at City Hall.
Okay, so that'll be a part of then of the final agenda that goes out as a public notice to that. And checking my notes. For what it's worth in terms of the dates that were tossed out, my preference would be the October 20th, or secondly, the September 22nd, just for the record on that. And I know that the Art Fund was not part of this specific agenda, but I don't know that it rightfully belongs in the agenda itself. But as we look into the discussion items, again, I think I mentioned this before, you can't really have the discussion about the framework of what we perceive the Art Fund as being generally before we get into the follow-up meetings about specifically what kind of recommendations we have. So, how generally how we're perceiving it. Is it as a fund, or is it as a tool to be able to achieve our objectives as a commission? And that's just something that I would like to be able to talk about, at least generally, within the context of the first meeting.
Commissioner Gregorian?
A couple of questions, which is not... Okay, let me just ask first. On this agenda item, is item number A really that necessary for half an hour? It's already done, and I'm not quite sure what the discussion point is going to be to take half an hour, especially when we have only 4 hours altogether to accomplish. So that was the first question. The second question is, when were thinking of retreat, I don't think we were just thinking about a one-year planning or strategic planning program for 2012 and 13, according to this. What I think we had in mind was to set overall a kind of a longer-term policy. So my question is, how are we going to separate the long-term planning and retreat, or if it's a retreat needed for it, a long-term planning with the goal of achieving it every year and planning for the shorter fiscal years? That is something that is not clear in here, and I'm not quite sure how we want to handle it. And if we want to handle all of that, then it seems to me that 4 hours may not really be enough to accomplish all of that. So these are the concerns and questions that I have. And in addition to the dates, it seems that the only date that I may be available is October 20th. I would much rather have it the first week of September, if that's my personal preference, because after that I may be traveling for about a month. So October 20th is probably the day that I will be returning, or just after. And I don't want to just come back from my traveling and go straight to the retreat without having the opportunity to see the paperwork and all the other things. I may be able to, kind of shift my traveling plans a little, but I would rather see it either much later than that or much earlier than all those dates that are suggested. It's unfortunate, but it's a coincidence that I have planned in advance.
Related to the length of the agenda, if all the commissioners agree that we should include the longer-term goals, and I do agree with that, would you prefer to do a longer retreat on that day, or plan for several days, maybe short, 2 4-hour sessions?
I would think that it would be better if it's the same day and longer, because we are already giving that time of our calendar for that. Besides, it is much kind of more cohesive if we start from the long and then go into the itemized and then short-term goals. And I agree with Commissioner Gregorian that the item A on the agenda is not... with all the things that needs to be discussed, that could be either taken off or less time could be given for the introduction. But definitely we should start from the long-term goals and then to specify into how we would like to see it in what needs to be done in every fiscal year. And 20th sounds better for me, October 20th.
Okay. Shall we just leave A as introductions and assume that we will have members of the public there and that introductions will be necessary?
What do you have in mind with that? I mean, how are you envisioning this item number A to work out?
Truly it was just put there because usually in any retreat you need a little time to get settled in and get, your thoughts put together. Your thoughts will already be put together, but, just kind of more of an icebreaker kind of thing. So 15 minutes, I'm sure, is fine. We probably don't even have to acknowledge it on the agenda. if
And,
that's what you...
you're opening the doors at 8:30, is that correct, or am I imagining that?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Yeah, refreshments.
Refreshments at
8:30.
8:30? I didn't, okay. Because if we wanted to start just a little bit early for the introductions, like 10 minutes early or something like that, too, for people that want to have, it's...
So you want to include that as part of the time that, they're...
I don't know that it needs to be called out
So-called
specifically.
social hour, right?
The
Between
social
8:30
hour
and 9.
introduction, and then kind of we start actually with the main issues.
It would work for me, that it's sort of a compromise between...
Our attorney has just advised me that if the public is involved, and they will be, that we need to agendize it as 8:45 to 9 as introductions. We can do that if that's your
That's fine.
preference.
That's
Okay.
okay with me.
Sounds good. And how much time do we need to add on for having all the ideas and goals and et cetera set? 2 more hours?
I personally believe that, especially if we include the longer-term planning, not only 4 hours, but maybe even 8 hours may not be enough. And just a speculation here. If we want to do 2 retreats, one for shorter, one for longer, and each one probably, at least the longer one, longer than 4 hours, that's also fine with me. It's just whatever is practical. I think our goal is to accomplish what we are supposed to accomplish based on the ordinance, based on the city council direction, and based on, what we envision is best for the community. So if it takes 2 days, that's fine with me. I can arrange that. I would much rather have a 1 day, 8-hour session personally than, anything else, but I can be flexible on that.
Or we could have working lunch included as well.
Well, if it's 8 hours, we'd better have lunch.
I know, but sort of to do more of a working lunch, kind of, to save on time, because I definitely like to see, starting with the general goals and then long-term goals, and then go to the specific one. We could go for the first fiscal year as the specific item, and then later on to add on or to have another. But
Or maybe the other way around. I think we should at least have an idea of what the longer goals are before
That's
getting
exactly what I
down
said.
to the annual.
that's what I said. So we'll use most of our time for the long-term goal and where we stand and exactly what we want to accomplish, and then we would go to the specific kind of short-term.
I'm sorry. What exactly are we talking about? Long-term goal. What does that mean? Are we talking about specifically the public art fund? Are we talking about the goals as a commission? I mean, what exactly are we talking about in terms of long-term goals? That seems like an ambiguous idea to me.
All of the above.
Yeah,
And so
well,
more.
that's kind of what I want. I kind of wanted to break down is that is staff looking for recommendations to how much time to spend on these specific items? Is that what you're looking for to come out of this discussion?
Well, I think out of this discussion, not the specific time for the agenda, but what you want on the agenda. So, I mean, what I'm hearing or what I'm interpreting as long-term goals is it a 5-year plan? Is it a 3-year plan? Is it a 10-year plan? And then narrowing that down to the current fiscal year.
But what are we talking about? Are we talking about strategic direction for the commission as a whole? Are we talking about public art fund? Because that seems like those two for me seem like we're treating them as separate things, and some people are not. And I'm as the chair, I need to figure that out as to what is the cohesive group going towards.
I mean, the commission may have another view of it, but my view of it is that the urban art program comes under the heading of strategic priorities or goals or whatever you want to call that. So within your strategic priorities, you need to focus on, well, first kind of the development of the guidelines of the involvement of the commission with the urban art program, and then, the implementation once we get to the development of the process. But that would be part of your strategic planning. It would be a subheading under strategic planning.
Are my colleagues in agreement with that assessment, or?
Okay, let me ask the question. Is it my comment that got
No,
the question? I'm just
not anyone specifically. I just there's terms being thrown out that are ambiguous to me, and there's no detail involved, so I was confused. But
That makes sense to me. I mean, I've thrown the art fund into it in that I personally perceive the art fund as a tool by which we can accomplish goals. And so by identifying our longer term, say 5-year strategic, maybe not a strategic, but strategic goals, and then narrowing it down, then knowing that the art fund, then when we get into the discussion at a separate time, we would be utilizing that as a tool to help us accomplish those goals. But that's my personal perspective on it.
The reason I asked that question is not because I have a specifically different or opinion about it or whatever, but just for clarification, so that we're all kind of on the same page going into this meeting, into this retreat, so we don't spend 5 hours trying to figure out what we're talking about.
One other question that I might have is, would it help if maybe we have a ad hoc subcommittee to plan this and bring this up to, par with most of our thinking?
Yeah, I'm still a little hazy on the procedures, but yes, Mike Grant tells me that that's okay.
Well, I knew he would say that. That's why I asked.
Yeah. No, I mean, I actually think that's a good idea. And if we're having the meeting in October, that gives us some time to then bring something back next month in September with another more fleshed out plan for the retreat. I mean, and going back to the urban art program, because the commission's budget is limited, now that we've inserted the urban art program, that is going to influence your goals and your priorities. And so that's another way of looking at it.
So we need to have all this, data and the elements to be able to plan, and for not only for next year, but also, as we call it, a long-term plan. We need to know more or less the budget. We need to know this art fund budget. We need to know, a lot of other things. So that's why the ad hoc committee is probably not a bad idea, a subcommittee or something.
Commissioner Deaver had a comment.
And I would agree with that. One of my thoughts was whether we could bring something before looking at the October 20th as a potential date. I don't know where we'll land, but if we have the time that we can come back as an item, discussion item, to focus on something that we think might take longer, like the long-term goals or something, so that as the chair said, that perhaps we're on the same page about what that is, and if an ad hoc committee would help us get closer to that goal, that's great. I do want to say that I think 8 hours, we're going to be mush by the end of that, and 6 hours I think would probably be my maximum for the kind of discussion purposes, and as long as everything is detailed out and somebody's keeping time and keeping us on task and not letting us get off, we should be able to accomplish that.
Well, 8 hours, I mean, including the breaks and the lunch and the
nap time.
And the nap time.
And the budget does allow
taking
for
it out
lunch.
back time.
It does or it doesn't?
It does.
Okay.
Question. So by that date, I suppose, especially with what you promised by next commission meeting, we would have some of the information as far as the public locations that the city owns and could be used as an art exhibition. So that could also help us to know what facilities we have and which ones could be used, and kind of to budget and see how we could use that public money for using that as exhibition areas.
I think that would be going too far ahead. I think we need to first try to figure out some guidelines first.
I know,
and
but
then
when
the
we
next step would be to
That's true, but
get all
when
the
we get to
locations
the
and then
fiscal, immediate, short-term goals, actually, that is a priority for a long time spoken, so.
May I make a suggestion? That because it's taken a while to get the temporary space in the Parks Department before you and finally finalized, that the focus for next year really be on the park spaces and getting that project going, and then learning from that, and then perhaps expanding it. And I am committed to looking at ways of expanding it, not only at the library but in other departments.
That sounds logical.
Commissioner Lee?
So my 2 cents into this is to try to speed our process up would be to go straight to our 2012-2013 work plan. So what we can do is go through what we've been doing and what we plan to accomplish for 2012-2013. Now, knowing that though there's a lot of variables once we get to this, once we get to the Urban Art Fund, but what we should do is our first part of our meeting should be just to set our general goals, looking quick ahead. Then we can spend more time on more details. It can change that, but I think that would speed us up at least in our thinking. Because, for example, we're going into the meeting, we're not expecting to have any decisions until the end of the day. I think that's going to be pushing it off too far down the line, where at the end of the day we might not have a solution yet. Whereas if we start off fresh, right in the mind, for example, we want to do the Diamond Awards, we set a few of the general goals first that we normally go after. And then we go back and then work on the Urban Art Fund, the procedures, everything else, and iron out all the details of that part of it. That's what I would recommend. Because
Well,
then,
maybe these details will be worked out by the ad hoc committee, and they will give us a better program of how we want to proceed with this agenda. So that's an idea that the ad hoc committee can probably consider and see if it's good.
Right, with the change of departments, with the change of leadership of the departments, with some of the finalized decisions of the council on the role of the Art and Culture Commission, I do believe that we should not be fragmented. We should start with the general, basically a clarified, clear understanding of all the roles, of what needs to be done, and then with what is financially, budget-wise, where we are standing, and then to get into the specifics.
For clarification, I thought we had talked at a previous meeting about having the art fund as its own topic following this retreat, where we would get into the nitty-gritty of how we want to, the details of our recommendation.
That's correct, yet I think I was the one who suggested that it should be two separate, that I saw it as two separate ideas, but I was countered by people who are saying that we can't do one without the other because funding isn't.
You can't ignore its
Right.
presence in the discussion, but we wouldn't be getting into the nitty-gritty of its
Right.
implementation recommendations.
Well, I don't have an issue with any of this, but I think what should be done to help expedite the process is that we should all get some kind of questionnaire or something that deals with some of the items that are going to be discussed, so that we can all come with prepared responses, so that we don't spend time trying to figure out what each other is trying to say. We have all of our thoughts in a concise fashion. And what I don't want to see happen is that we get handed reading materials and then we just go over the same reading materials during the meeting. I really don't want to see that, because we can all kind of read on our own times. So I think that's where a lot of the time is going to be, I don't want to say wasted, but used up in the review of the status of our current work plan. So if we're going to do that, in which I don't have a problem with that, as brief as possible, because we'll have it in written form anyway, and we all know kind of what's in the pipeline.
Who prepares that written form?
Well,
ad hoc?
that could be through an ad hoc process. I don't mind. Staff can certainly do that. If it really depends on how the meeting itself is going to be run.
Now, we have given you some documents. Are there other documents that you would like from us?
I mean, it seems like this is plenty, what we have in our packet currently, unless my colleagues disagree. It seems like there's plenty with and I see dollar signs and things. So
And maybe if there is any modification needed after we read it thoroughly for next commission meeting to
Right.
work on that?
right.
I think for the, especially for the Urban Art Fund, what we have is good enough, but it probably is not sufficient. I would really like to see what other cities are doing, some other experiences with, progressive cities, not cities that don't know how to spell art. I believe that there are many cities in Southern California that have a very, advanced and comprehensive art fund program. So I would like to see that. And also, I think we had some documentation, if I recall correctly. I'm not quite sure what it's called, but we have some literature from the past that was either in the package for the commissioners or done later on when the redevelopment agency was discussing the downtown specific plan and the art district. So I would really like to have all kinds of information ready. I mean, the reading might be a little too onerous for some of us, but I think if we really want to come in with a serious planning and long-term planning, we really have to put that effort, and we really have to read all of that and be prepared. I don't want to come somewhere blind and in the dark and start talking. I just don't think that's right.
I agree with Commissioner Gregorian, and with the downtown Glendale, actually the planning department had a fantastic material prepared, and even they had a chart of all the progressive communities that they are using the art and culture to promote art in the city, and the funds, how much money is being given to that. And if, based on whatever that chart that is already existing, both at the planning department and with our commission, we have it in our archives, I'm sure, there could be a contact done by the staff to see exactly kind of how they mobilize it, how they are planning on that, because that would be a nice way that staff could advise on as far as what information is being done.
And if it will help you, there are some cities that I know have really good plans, and I'm not saying we should copy them or anything, but there are, let's say, I believe Culver City has a very interesting plan. Laguna Beach has a very interesting plan. Pasadena has an interesting plan. Thousand Oaks has a lot of good material, and I'm not quite sure about Santa Monica, but again, I'm not going to the extreme and say, well, all the cities with all the best plans. But, I would really like to see what is happening in other places also. We might learn from them, and I'm sure we would. So, and I'm not saying bring all of that, but I'm saying at least we should have at least a selection of some of these cities. Palm Springs has a very interesting art plan, and they're all in Southern California. I know Sunnyvale in North has interesting plans, but I really would like to see some of how they handle it before we even get into this retreat.
Sorry, before that, so you mean you want to know exactly the budget used, how it is processed, for what kind of things they're using it?
I just want to have a general idea of how these other cities are handling. Maybe they allocate, like Thousand Oaks, millions of dollars, which we can't afford, and I understand that. But at least I would like to see how they do it.
Yes.
And what they do.
Commissioner Lee? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to say that I've been compiling a lot of the plans for percent for art programs from a variety of cities, because some cities have a percent for art program with guidelines and a budget, and then other communities have a separate arts and culture budget. So I've been compiling the policies for percent for art program, so when we begin discussing the urban art program and the fund, we can refer to some of these other plans and kind of pick out what's important. But if you'd like additional information as to what some of these other communities, what their overall programs look like separate, or the overarching division and the budget, we can try and get that information, because a lot of these communities are kind of set up the way that we are. There's the overall, art program and the budget and the goals, and then there's the fund that is used as a tool to implement some of the goals. So would you like both? And then does everybody want that information ahead of time? Or would you like the percent for art program policies presented in a separate meeting, commission meeting, so that the focus is just on that plan?
Well, if you are directing your question to me, I would not only, I'm sorry, I would not only like to have a kind of both, more or less, as much as possible. I don't want to put you into a lot of trouble, and I don't want you to spend more time than necessary on this. But what I really would like to do is have as comprehensive idea as possible, so that we will come to this meeting prepared and knowing what others do. And on a personal and kind of selfish level, I would really like to have this in September, so that if I go to my trip, at least I will have this material with me to be able to study while I'm away. But again, that's a very selfish, personal thing. If it's possible, great. If it's not, then we'll handle it in another way.
I think if for our next commission meeting, that would expedite the process. It would make it much easier, much more cohesive. If that could be presented by you in our next commission meeting, we'll be all prepared. We would have the material also for Commissioner Grigorian to take home, and for us to analyze it, take it home. While you present it, we'll have the written part as well, so we could study later on and be ready for our thing. I think the Commissioner Lee has to really say.
Yes, Shirley, go ahead.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You are right.
The Urban Art Fund is something that will take minimally 6 months to a year for us to even tap into it, to be able to set guidelines. That's the reason why I had mentioned to go through our work plan first. Now, to make our work plan work, now the only thing I was missing, I'm a numbers guy, the only thing that was missing was the actual budget that our commission has to do our work plan. So that's why my first goal was to sit down and we iron out our work plan first, because that's what we have money in hand, what we can do right away, per se. Then we sit down and we iron out how the other part of components, which can be elaborate. It will change our work plan, or can. But our first goal is we can't be utilizing that art fund for 3 months, 6 months, a year down the line. So if our work plan for what we see the first year, for next year, we need to set what we're going to do first, in that essence. And then the other stuff, if it happens ahead of time, then that's fine. I don't know if everybody else is following me on it. Because if we spend all our time trying to hash out what we're going to do with our Urban Art Fund, by that time, 6 months, a year down the line, we had no programming, not programming, but our own work plan, our Diamond Awards, everything else. We're basically going to put it all aside, is what it's going to sound like, in that essence.
I don't think the goal was to plan what we're going to do with money that's kind of in the air, tied up, blah, blah, blah. I think the goal was to set up guidelines to then come back and see how that can work out. Because honestly, from where I'm coming from, I don't even know how wise of a decision that is to plan 5-10 years in advance when we don't know how much money is going to come into this fund or stay, or how we're going to utilize it. So my concern is basically we have X amount of money to set up guidelines, because we can't even just use it. We have to set up guidelines so that then we can use it. And plus, it's Urban Art Fund. It's public art. So we can't just use it on what the commission's doing. So that's why it's a whole different animal. We can't just say, oh, we're doing such and such project, open studio tour or something, and just use that money. We can't do that. So that's why the process in which we're discussing right now, and I think on this side of the room, and the person sitting next to me is immediately next to me is I think we're kind of on board and going into that direction. So having said that, I kind of want to revisit. Are you done with your comments, Commissioner Lee? Sorry, I didn't mean to. cut you off.
No.
Okay.
I just want us to get a good perspective of what we're trying to accomplish on the retreat day, because what I'm hearing majority talk is on the urban art front, how to set it all up. But remember, we got to keep focused. First is what we can do right away, and then what we can work on the rest of the time. I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Absolutely, and we appreciate that. We know you're the numbers guy, Commissioner Lee. Have no worries. I kind of want to go back and talk about, in terms of, just to expedite this process, to talk about the ad hoc committee. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to go that route, what I personally think is, I don't think we all need all of that information that Commissioner Gregorian was talking about. I don't think we need that all now, because a lot of that can be looked at and analyzed in the ad hoc committee, and then of course we'd all have that before the actual retreat. So then we can all read that over, and then if there's any kind of discussion that came out of the ad hoc committee, that can be presented then. So I don't think it's immediate that we have all of that information, because I think it's a lot of information, and quite frankly, even if I were to read all of that, I don't know what would come out of that. Commissioner Gregorian?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but my vision of the ad hoc committee was not for them to get information, analyze it, filter it out, and give us the rest, whatever they think is right.
And I wasn't saying that.
My idea of the ad hoc committee was to to help this organizing of this retreat and prepare the agenda, kind of break down the agenda to whatever we discussed, and but nothing. My vision was not the ad hoc committee to analyze and filter any information regarding it. So.
Right.
It was mostly an organizational committee where it would help the staff and coordinate the commission's wishes and the staff and the general purpose and the goals of the Library, Arts and Culture Department. So having said that, if my colleagues are agreeing with me, and since this is an action item, I think we've discussed this long enough to hopefully get 2 volunteers at least, to be in compliance with the Brown Act, and have the ad hoc committee formed and move forward. I think we discussed that enough today.
Could I suggest something? Meanwhile, is there a possibility that for our next commission meeting to have what is the exact budget that we have as is? And even in that meeting, we can discuss about we're talking about the Diamond Awards or different activities that Commissioner Lee was so concerned. So with that budget, we would know exactly where we could decide, or we could finalize anything that needs to be done in that direction. So that could resolve the immediate whatever activities or actions you wanted. So by having the budget next commission meeting, we could even vote on or decide or finalize on that part, Commissioner Lee's concerned part. So then we could utilize more of the time for our retreat for the rest of the topics discussed.
So can I ask for Commissioner Derawanesian and Commissioner Deaver to volunteer for this ad hoc committee?
I like
I'm looking for
Deaver's
volunteers.
expression.
Maybe I can add that based on the comments that you've given us today, Annette and I can sit down and give you another more detailed draft before you meet as an ad hoc committee to kind of get the conversation started, and so that it might not be as long a meeting as might be necessary if we didn't.
But the next meeting is in September, and we are very close to the October, if we decide a date today. So probably the ad hoc committee needs to be formed today.
Oh, yeah, no, I wasn't suggesting otherwise. I was just saying we'll help you a little bit by taking your comments.
Yeah,
and
of course.
From what I can already tell is that I'm kind of keeping tabs on what dates everyone was available, and it looks like October 20th is kind of the default date at this point. So we would probably have 2 meetings before our retreat.
Is it possible to have it October 29th? I'm just being a little ambitious here, but by then I'm sure I will be back.
Ms. Vartanian, did you have a comment?
I think it's October 27th.
27th, I'm sorry. I based it on 22. Okay. Yes, 27th. If that's at all possible.
What day is that?
It's a Saturday.
It's all
They're all
Saturday.
Saturdays.
They are all Saturdays.
And that way we will have two meetings also, two commission meetings, which will kind of be very helpful to the ad hoc committee.
Now, along those same lines, if what Commissioner
Terhovenesian?
is saying, maybe we can approve our strategic plan or work plan next month at our next meeting. Then our retreat is just to discuss the Urban Art Fund.
We can't
Well-
do that. I mean, I'm sorry. I just don't think that it's not consistent with what we've been talking about, because it'd be difficult to get into defining our work plan without having the discussion. Because in my head, I keep thinking about, we'll sit and look at the plan from this last year and go, okay, we want to do the Diamond Ward, we want to do this again, but we can't make those. I have a hard time making those decisions without knowing what our direction is as a body. So, I might say, I don't think the Diamond Awards is appropriate for us to do anymore, because I think we should be just working on the Art Fund this year and how that will be implemented, and I think we need to look at arts and economic development or something. I mean, that could, just pulling that out of the air, that's not what I'm behind. And so I would have a hard time deciding which programs to keep. I do agree that addressing what we have left for this year, that we have in the plan that's on the docket, how that's going to be implemented and completed for the rest of this year, makes a lot of sense. And in the context of the budget, to make sure that everything is set and we're moving forward. But I think making decisions beyond that we haven't already set doesn't. And that might have to do with the fiscal year kind of overlap that we have that's a little bit confusing on it. And I'm sorry, I apologize. That was really rude of me to
No.
jump in like that.
That's basically what I had in mind.
Okay.
Because what we first need to do is work at what we have in hand. The other things are still being worked out, just like the public art. We've been at that for a year and a half. Now, I don't want our current programming or our current progress to be all dependent on what we're planning ahead. So there's very low progress now, whereas certain things that we know that we normally want scheduled, for example, Diamond Awards, Open Studio Tour, those type of things, whether we're doing it or we're having somebody else do it, if we can get that set in motion, then we can concentrate on what we need to come up with.
And to clarify this,
yes.
The Diamond Award was already decided, and it is on the process and progress, and even commissioners who are supposed to be working, and the jury and all that stuff, that's already on the go. So that's what I thought we could discuss with the budget and et cetera in our next commission meeting. The rest is all based on what Commissioner Deaver said. We need to have the big plan to know what we are picking and what we are not for the future of the art and culture. So Diamond Award is already there. Now we are going beyond that, and that beyond that needs to be in a major map of where we stand and where we are going and what are the choices of the commissioners and et cetera.
Okay, we're really now just going in circles. So, Commissioner Gregorian, I'm going to give you the last comment, and
Okay.
so we can move on.
Actually, thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, I can see Commissioner Lee's point in the sense that we have a work plan for next year, whatever that is. We have to move forward, and then we have this other duty to have the art fund budget, the long-term planning, etc., etc. Although they are very closely intertwined, but they probably are somewhat separate. And maybe his concern is that we shouldn't put our immediate works on the back burner just because we are discussing something bigger and better. So if that is your point, and you nod that it is, I can see that point. And maybe we could kind of walk on both avenues and with the understanding that the immediate work plan for next year might be amended in the future based on the bigger plan that we set up later on. And if that is the case, I don't see anything wrong. I agree with it 100%.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say, because a work plan is only a work plan. I mean, it's nothing that we're setting in stone. As long as we have first some guideline first of what we're planning ahead, and then the rest of the stuff will fall into place. And then it can totally change 360 degrees. But in the meantime, at least in the meantime, while we're trying to decide on that, to come to that really good plan, we at least something else is in motion. Because like I said again, our current budget, we're budgeted amount for the next fiscal year.
Okay.
We still need to plan that out, and then we work on all the extra stuff. All the extra stuff, if it comes in time, then it will change our work plan, yes. And that's not a problem. It has to be it's a work plan. It's a working plan. It's going to move along.
So it looks like we've somehow come to a consensus, it seems like, and I'm ready to entertain some motions or some kind of direction, because I think we've beat this to a pulp. Okay. Anyone with any kind of motion?
Yes, a motion to
Next
nominate.
commission meeting, we would have the budget, and we would finalize that work plan that we have already discussed, and it's on the...
Can we make that
process.
motion?
This is an
Okay.
action item anyway. So.
Right, but it's the direction is different. That's why I'm
I think
only
before
asking
that,
for
maybe it's
clarification.
better if we form that ad hoc committee, and before your motion, if you don't mind. Maybe we should form the ad hoc committee, see who the members are, empower them to do whatever we want them to do, and then after that, then we give them the direction of
We'll
what.
come out of that.
So my motion is to form an ad hoc committee to organize the retreat in cooperation with the staff and the attorney and the head department.
Mr. Grant, do you have a comment?
No,
The ad hoc committee should consist of 2 commission members and some members of the staff, wherever the director will see fit.
Chair Cavagna and Commissioners, and that's fine. I mean, I think you anticipate at least 2 motions. One would be the
The ad hoc committee.
ad hoc committee. Then, you've agreed on that. You can appoint 2 members, and then the time and place of the meeting, and anything else that you feel that
Can come out of. Okay, this is sort of.
Yeah.
So
In light of an ad hoc committee, why don't we dialogue directly with staff, and then let staff put together the plan? Because right now, like I said again,
well,
if
we're
two of
going
us-
to have that regardless. That's going to happen. But there needs to be 2 of us who can directly help the planning process of this retreat.
So anybody seconding the motion?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Now we can discuss.
Now we can.
I think we've discussed this enough.
Right. So now, yes.
Date and place
The ad hoc committee?
for the
No,
retreat.
the first motion is about the ad hoc committee and seconded,
Yes.
so
It'll be 3 motions.
So-
Call for a vote, right? Okay, no discussion.
For ad hoc...
It was
It was seconded. Okay, then can we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Zever?
Yes.
Chair Hovhanessian?
Yes.
Gregorian?
yes.
Yes.
Person Kavanian?
Yes. Okay,
So now we need volunteers.
now we need volunteers. Yes. Oh.
I would have loved to, but I can't, because I'm finishing an art project, and I'm going to go on a trip before that. So sadly, I have to decline, even though I like to be part of it, but...
Okay. Would anybody? I would hate to volunteer people.
No, it's nice, but it's just on this one
Yeah,
because...
like I said, I don't mind volunteering. I'm okay with that, but I see the same conclusion as if we all were giving feedback. I'm just speaking by myself.
But the planning is the process is different.
Like I said, I'll volunteer. I'm there.
Okay.
I'm happy. My scheduling is tight, but if we can work around that, I'm happy to be a part of that.
So it looks like there's 2. Okay. Yes, can we take a
Okay.
vote to approve?
So I make a motion to take the volunteers, Commissioner Deaver and Commissioner Lee, as the members of the ad hoc committee to organize the retreat.
There's a second?
Second.
Okay.
I'll second.
Commissioners Deaver?
Yes.
Terhovenessian?
Yes.
Gregorian?
Yes.
Commissioner Lee cannot second it, actually.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He can or he cannot?
I'm going to pass my gavel. I will second it. Thank you.
That was very technical.
I know the rules.
Very good.
Can we take a roll call, please?
Commissioners Deaver?
Yes.
Terhovenessian?
Yes.
Gregorian?
Yes.
Yes.
Chairperson Kevanian?
Yes. Okay, now comes the tough part of deciding on a date.
You said October 20th, not 22nd.
Yes, and Commissioner Gregorian did talk about possibly doing it on the 27th of October, which would give us even more
More
time
time. How
to
about?
gather information. So it's,
I'm available for that.
I'm available too.
okay, so somebody needs to make a motion on that as well.
27th? Said the 27th? Okay.
Okay, I move for the retreat to be held on the 27th of October, 8:30 a.m., the place to be designated by the director. And is it a one-day or half-day?
1 day,
treat?
6 hours.
For a full day retreat.
Okay. I can't pass this all the time, so somebody else needs to second.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioners Deaver?
Yes.
Terhovenessian?
Yes.
Gregorian?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Chairperson Kevanian?
Yes. All right, next item, please.
5B reports information only. F1, Arts and Economic Prosperity Study 4, Part 1, the economic impact of nonprofit organizations and their audiences nationwide.
Can we go back? Should we do something about the work plan, or is that good?
You guys will decide later.
Yeah, the ad hoc will decide that.
Okay.
Have no worries. That's why we put you on there.
Chair Kevanian and members of the Commission, as you're aware, every 5 years, Americans for the Arts conducts a national economic impact study of nonprofit arts and culture organizations and their audiences. Back in 2010, the city of Glendale joined with Americans for the Arts' latest national economic impact study. The study features customized findings on 182 communities and regions and includes data both at the national level as well as specifically for Glendale. The study found that nationally the industry generates $135 billion of economic activity and supports 4.1 million full-time jobs nationally. The study focuses solely on the economic impact of nonprofit arts organizations and event-related spending. It doesn't include spending by individual artists and for-profit arts and culture sector. And this study measures uses four different economic measures, which include full-time equivalent jobs, resident household income, revenue to local and state, and taxes. And much like many sectors, the arts were impacted by the Great Recession, but they've also proven to be resilient and entrepreneurial businesses. Unlike some other sectors, art organizations are rooted locally, so these jobs aren't shipped overseas. They employ people at the local level. And unfortunately, a lot of the gains made during the pre-recession era were erased, but the arts look like they will continue to increase. A lot of communities did see an increase in arts spending and employment despite the recession. Specifically to Glendale, 223 full-time jobs are supported in our community, and the revenue generated to our local government is $391,000. We had approximately 237,000 people attend a variety of arts and culture events, and These attendees spend an average of $12.53 per person, excluding the cost of admission locally. That concludes the study, or my quick summary of the study. I believe you have much more information in your packets.
Questions, comments? Commissioner Deaver?
Yeah, thank you for that. It's been interested to see those numbers. I'm just curious about and would like to recommend or get some feedback from staff about the potential for distributing this information in a way that can let our community and our civic leaders know about this through press release and going to council to provide this update. I'm also wondering if the feasibility of presenting this kind of information with, there's another county-wide arts and economic development study that's commissioned through the Otis College, and it would be interesting to see packaging this in Glendale-specific information with Americans for the Arts along with sort of the county-wide in a way to advocate for the importance of the arts organizations, both on the nonprofit side, but then also on the for-profit side, which the Otis takes into consideration as well. They have a much broader definition of the economic impact. That's my comment on that. And also, just a social media component too. I just want to make sure this information gets out through the different avenues that we have available to us through the Library and Arts and Cultural Department.
Did I get it right that information would be presented to the council by staff, and also it would be in the media as well?
That would be my hope.
Yes, that's a very good idea.
We're happy to bring that forward to council. I will say, too, that the full report can be, for everybody watching today, the full report can be accessed at the website, which is artsusa.org, artsusa.org. So it not only gives Glendale information, but it gives information from throughout our community. Immediately, we can post this information on our Facebook account that's hooked into the Brand Library and Art Center, but we also will issue a
and the media as well, like news press.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Thank you very much for the report. Next item, please.
Summary of Art Organizations Roundtable Discussion Meeting.
Commission, as you recall, in February, there was a roundtable discussion meeting of the City of Glendale's arts organizations. Essentially, this was an effort to develop a stronger relationship with these art organizations and to present an opportunity to share ideas on how to better coordinate and support arts in the city. We got a lot of great feedback. We had 32 participants in total. There were representatives of local art organizations, artists, commission members, and some city staff. Essentially, the main topics discussed was a need for venue space, as we've heard today. In addition to that, availability of the brand gallery, free facilities to host meetings, public spaces for plays, better collaboration with schools, promotion of art events, a lack of an art and entertainment district, and developing a plan for some sort of a annual art festival. It's very expansive of the first topic area. But the second topic and third topic areas were how and what the city and arts organizations can do to nurture public and private partnerships with networking opportunities and improve promotion of the arts. Again, many of the attendees stated that we should use the city as a catalyst to manage events by utilizing various media such as GTV6 to promote and interview artists, advertise art events, facilitate a unification of galleries, giving equal promotion time for each, and producing banners and inform organizations on how they could better promote themselves for free and designate art and parks and signature events in the city.
Good report.
Questions? Commissioner Deaver?
As I recall, there were some requests from some of the participants for the follow-up, maybe on the minutes from it, also opportunities for, I think, for them to connect. My mind's a little bit fuzzy on it, but I don't know whether we actually had any kind of formal follow-up with the participants, and if not, if we can, providing them the meetings and maybe at a staff level discussing the potential for helping them to convene again, if that's something that they had. I think there was a couple people that kind of stood up and were interested in that, if they had the tools, like a place to meet simply, and also just to be able to contact the other folks that were at the meeting. Not wanting to suggest a big workload, but just at least a little bit of closure on that would be great.
Okay. Sure, I'll look into that.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you for the report.
I have a question. Now that we have this, of course, this is, very, very brief, and there were many, many points and other issues discussed in that meeting. My question is, will these organizations who participated get a copy of this as a courtesy, or they have to get into our website or get into the archives to get that? That's the first question. But the more important question is, what do we intend to do with this now? Now that we have this report, and now we know that more or less, at least the organizations who participated, what the artists' needs and comments are we hopefully going to incorporate these also in our work plan and our strategic planning with the ad hoc committee and the retreat? Or, what are we going to do with this? That's basically the main question.
Well, I do believe that we had them there to see what the community is expecting from us and the city, and then our job is to make sure and see within the budgets or within the money that could be utilized, how we are going to be working it. That's basically where we need to begin with. That is major. First, we need to take care of the needs of the city and the art community of our own city, and then from there on we could expand and expose them to much more. So it should be the guideline.
When this was originally asked for, my memory is it was in the context of your retreat, so that you could use this information to help you process what you wanted to plan for. I think what has to happen at the retreat is, okay, what of these things are appropriate for the commission, what is appropriate for the city, and of course the budgetary issue, how much can we actually achieve. So that was the original intention of bringing it here.
But that was my intent, to bring this up today, to make sure that we all understand that that was the intention.
Yes.
And hopefully, address it as much as we can.
Yes, the ad hoc committee will make sure that we see that. Next item, please.
Item 6, commission and staff comments.
Okay.
Just one. I wanted to mention that, so far I was the liaison for the Brand Associates, and since from the time Commissioner Deaver is on board and is a board member, it would be much more time efficient if she would be the liaison as well, because otherwise, before, I wanted the board people from the Brand Associates to come and discuss and talk about what they do, and now since she's part of the board, so we'll leave that as comments that, the part of the comments that she does, instead of being redundant and reinvent the wheel.
I feel like it blurs the lines a little bit, frankly. Like, I want my role on the board of that organization to be discrete from the Arts Commission, particularly when we start getting into sort of strategic planning and art fund and things like that. I'd like to keep. I don't know whether there's any regulations with regard to that or things we should be concerned about. That's when I kind of wanted to keep it separate. I'm looking to our attorney.
He's mouthing keep it separate.
Because I do believe, correct me, Mr. Grant, because anyhow, if any decisions are supposed to be made for the Brand Associates, as a board member for them and as a commissioner, well, you would not be able to vote on that. So why not to be the liaison as well as you are there? You are very well aware of what's happening and what are the plans and et cetera. So why, while you are there and everything is being planned, I would come and report, or there would be a kind of a thin line into who's supposed to be telling whom what needs to happen. This way, you are there and the time is being used in the most efficient way.
If I may, I think the idea of being a liaison makes you an ex officio member, so you cannot vote in that organization as a liaison. So that would change Commissioner Deaver's role on that in that organization. Am I correct in that?
Okay.
That's two clever things I said today.
That's
No,
a
but
record.
you know what?
That's a record, right?
Then we could have, because if that would be the case, then we could have Commissioner Deaver assign different board members or participants of the brand associates to come and do their presentations, basically. Because since the liaison doesn't have any rights to vote or make any decisions, so when we are at the brand associates, so that part, what basically we do is to introduce what brand associates do to the community and to the commission. That is the situation.
I feel like that the brand associates should be treated like any other organization within the community, and if we would request them, like any others, to come forth, certainly
And do the presentation.
and do the presentation like we would ask the Glendale Art Association and such. Again, I don't want to blur the lines or give it its unfair and seeming unfair advantage by talking about or talking specifically with other board members and encouraging them to come forward at particular times. It feels uncomfortable to me.
So in that case, then let's do it this way. If it works well for everybody here, is that if I would continue to be the liaison, but you would be the one who would tell me exactly what needs to be, because somehow I noticed that the president of the board and the vice president, and then like last time, I was not even aware what I was supposed to be discussing. You know, I don't want that to happen ever.
I want to stop us here because we're having a discussion, and this is a comments section. If I read it correctly.
Okay.
But thank you. We appreciate your comments. What seemed like very heated comments.
No, I wanted to make
passionate,
sure that we
passionate.
utilize the time in the best possible way. We are doing so many different things. We are going to all these events. So as a time efficacy and efficiency, I thought that would be the best. But if that's going to cross the lines for the different legalities, then we'll discuss behind the scene how we need to do that, the details.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Reverend Nissen.
Very short.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but if I could just interject on that note. As far as the brand associates are concerned, I mean, my intention is to have actually Chuck or another staff member come to commission meetings on a monthly basis. And as part of that, just as he did today, he will report on the associates and the Friends and the Library Arts and Culture Department.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. In that case, so that clarifies.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gregorian?
Just very quickly, a couple of questions. We discussed and in the June meeting and approved the minutes today that we would get a detailed report of the GATE program and the spending and all that. I was hoping to see it in today's agenda. It wasn't. When do we expect to get that?
Next.
And one of the reasons that we did leave it off is because it has to be put into the broader context of the urban art program. And so I felt like we needed to have the retreat and we had to have discussion about the urban art program and where we wanted to go with that before we got into the details of GATE.
But my request was not for the future. My request was up to today, what we have done, what we have spent, where the monies went, where we had the events, and how many people attended and things like that. I mean, it has nothing to do with the future.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood, and we can do that next
If we
time.
can please get this report next month, I would really appreciate it.
Be happy to.
Great, thank you. And there are a couple of very minor points. The minutes that we have in here, usually we used to have on the very bottom who prepared it. On the June minutes, we don't have that information, who prepared the minutes. I think we should really have in all the future minutes on who prepared it. And also On the business cards and things that we have, we discussed it last time. I don't think there has been any improvement in that. Our cards still show the Parks and Rec Department, and I think it's time for us to change it.
And I agree. We are in the midst, the city is in the midst of incorporating the brand that you saw up on the screen with Chuck's report into all of our PR, including business cards. So we're waiting for that to be finalized before we issue the business cards. I don't have a new business card that says Library Arts and Culture either, and I would love one as well, and for that very reason. So as soon as that is finalized, and actually Annette is working on that as we speak, then we will issue new business cards.
Okay.
It's worth the wait. The business cards are going to look fabulous.
There's going to be colors on this one?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Flowers and butterflies and artsy.
Personalized business cards. Any other comments? Shirley? We have about 5 minutes, sorry, just a fair warning.
Plan ahead, September 29th, Unity Festival will be on Brand Boulevard as usual. The hours are supposed to change from 2 to 7. We're trying to, and it's on a Saturday, so bear that in mind. Put that in your calendars, come out, there'll be entertainment, free entertainment, enjoy shopping, events, and things to do on Brand. Unity Festival again, September 29th. Thank you.
That's the day that the gallery announced their opening of their exhibition. But hopefully it wouldn't hinder it.
Any other comments? Any other comments? Well, just briefly, everybody knows I just got back from Italy. I had a fantastic time. So I'm just saying.
The report.
I'm just saying this so that nobody asks me, because I'm everybody who asks me, and I said I had a great time. They say, you went to Italy, and that's all you have to say. Well, I was practicing a lot of the time, so I have no idea what went on in the world, other than what happened in the practice room.
Where in Italy?
I was in a town on the border of Switzerland called Vos am Schlern, where they spoke German and Italian. So I ended up actually learning more German than Italian. So I can order food items in German, which is nice. Had a lot of fun. And,
Mr. Chair, I was following your Facebook posts.
Oh yes, well,
and I've seen a lot of fun pictures in there.
Actually, those were not my Facebook posts, but people would take photos, and of course they post on Facebook. But yes, there was the occasional night at the pool hall and playing billiards and so forth. But that's totally normal. Schubert actually was a professional level billiards player. So I was only doing what other composers and pianists and musicians do. So having said that, yes, I had a lot of fun, and I don't have anything else to report on. So next item, please.
So your next thing on the agenda is to follow Schubert's footsteps.
Yes, and
I'm waiting for the serenade then.
Yes, yeah, right. Serenade and a lot of art songs, 200 or something.
Okay.
Yes. Any other comments before we move on to the next item? Okay. Next item, please.
Item 7, written communications.
There are none. I'm surprised. Next item.
Adjournment.
Okay, we are adjourned.
All right.